don't think there was really a kind of an official beginning to this album, because it's been kind of drifting in and out of my life for like an awful long time. I mean, if I have one regret, it's that I said anything at all about it in 2019, because I really shouldn't have done, because we'd only just started creating it. I don't know, there are various points where I thought, I think we're going to make a new album. And then it's kind of the idea, sort of like, for various reasons, other things have happened. And the idea's been sort of pushed back. So I'm not sure, but there have been definite points along the way where I thought, this, whether it be the first song, key, I think, in the history of the band is, if I know what the opening song is, and I know what the closing song is, I think that's the album's halfway done. They're the two. That's the key for an album.
Okay, so are you ready to go deep? Because today we are diving into TheCure.
Oh, excellent choice.
Yeah, so many of you wanted us to really get into what makes their music tick, and not just the hits, but, the heart of it all.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're going to unpack 10 tracks from this article spanning their whole career. And it's full of all these unexpected facts, critical takes. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, because what I found fascinating about it was how it sort of goes beyond just like trivia about the songs. You really get this sense of like the cultural landscape at the time, even Robert Smith's personal life, everything that sort of fed into their sound. It's like a sonic biography.
It really is. Yeah, it's like you said, it's beyond just trivia. Yeah. Like, I knew Friday I'm in Love was catchy, but I had no idea it was like a strategic move to get on taxi playlists.
Wow.
Apparently it worked, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's rewind back to the beginning, 1979, Boys Don't Cry, a song that on the surface feels, I don't know, almost deceptively upbeat.
Yeah, and that's such the Cure thing to do, right? Like juxtaposing this really poppy, upbeat melody with lyrics that actually cut pretty deep.
Yeah.
Like you've got this driving rhythm, almost cheerful, but then the words are all about this vulnerability that, especially at the time, wasn't really talked about openly.
Yeah.
Especially for men.
And it's crazy to think how groundbreaking that was. I mean, this article mentions that it was even featured on BBC Radio 4's Soul Music.
Wow.
Soul music. Like, that's not a connection you would typically make, but it speaks to just how emotionally resonant that song is.
Absolutely. And it kind of transcended genre, I think, because it tapped into something so universal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That experience of sadness and needing that release. And what I find fascinating is, like, a year later, they release Aforest, which goes in a totally different direction.
Oh, talk about a 180. I mean, Boys Don't Cry had that almost that hopeful undercurrent to it. But Aforest is just drenched in this atmospheric dread. It's like walking into a nightmare. And it's interesting because the article highlights that as their first UK charting single. So even with that eerie vibe, it really struck a chord. Mm. But what is it about the music itself, do you think, that creates this unsettling feeling?
It's so many things coming together, right?
Yeah.
So you got the minor key, which immediately sets this uneasy tone.
Yeah.
And then that slow, deliberate tempo, like footsteps slowly getting closer in the dark. And then the echoing guitar, it's just adding to that feeling of being totally lost and alone.
Oh, it's like that feeling when you're walking alone at night.
Yeah.
And you suddenly become hyper aware of every single sound, every shadow. They captured that in the music.
Precisely. And that's something that I think is so unique about The Cure. It's that ability to evoke those really, really vivid emotions.
Yeah.
To transport you to another place just with their sound.
Yeah.
But as much as Aforest leaned into the shadows, they weren't afraid to switch things up.
Which brings us to 1983 and the arrival of, shall we say, a feline friend. The Lovecats.
Yeah.
A song so catchy, so unexpectedly jazzy. Like, how did this even come from the same band that made Aforest?
Right. It's like this mischievous wing from a band that everyone thinks is so serious.
Right.
And even Robert Smith himself called it a drunken joke.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of what makes them so intriguing. It's that willingness to play with expectations. You know, they don't take themselves too seriously.
And it clearly resonated because this was their first UK top 10 hit, proving that they could embrace the lighter side without sacrificing their unique identity.
Exactly. I mean, it really shows their range, their ability to surprise and delight. But that playful energy, it wasn't a fluke, because a few years later, they proved they could polish that pop sensibility even further without losing their edge.
We are talking Inbetweendays.
Yes.
Oh, Inbetweendays, such a classic. How do you think this track differs from the Lovecats in terms of their sound? Like, was this a conscious move to a more polished sound?
Oh yeah, In Between Days definitely feels more polished, more like consciously pop-oriented, you know.
Yeah.
Where the Lovecats had that jazzy thing going on. In Between Days has those like shimmering synths and the driving guitar riffs.
Right.
It's so 80s, but like still so them.
It's like they took those raw emotions like we were talking about and packaged them in a way that was still catchy, but still, you know, emotionally grabbing you. And it worked because In Between Days became their 4th consecutive top 20 hit in the UK.
Wow. 4.
Yeah, they were really mastering the whole hit-making thing without, you know, losing their artistic, like, integrity.
Yeah, totally.
But speaking of staying true to themselves, we have to talk about Close to Me, also from 1985.
Close to Me. It's the perfect example of how they could take what sounds like a happy sound.
Right.
And give it this dark, kind of complex, emotional core.
Yes.
Because on the surface, you've got those hand claps, the xylophone, that bouncy bass line is almost like whimsical. But then you listen to the lyrics and it's like, oh, okay, there's a whole other story here.
Yeah, it's like there's this tension,
Yeah,
this unease that's simmering under those happy little melodies. And this article actually mentions that the inspiration for this song came from Robert Smith's childhood illness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the lyrics are really about those feelings of vulnerability and being like trapped physically and emotionally. And I don't know if you've seen the music video, but Tim Pope directed it.
Oh, cool.
And he really captures that like claustrophobia perfectly with that whole wardrobe scene.
Oh, right.
In such a striking image. It's like them crammed into that tiny space, performing as clothes are falling down around them. It's weird. It's deeply unsettling, but you can't look away.
It's like watching a panic attack unfold.
It is. And it's like, again, they're using music and visuals to create this really immersive experience.
Absolutely. And again, it's like they just refuse to be put in a box, you know? They could do light and dark, playful and serious, often at the same time. And that kind of brings us to the late 80s, early 90s, when they really mastered this duality. Just Like Heaven, 1987 is a perfect example of this.
It's funny you mentioned that, Just Like Heaven, because on the surface, it does feel like a departure from like the claustrophobia of Close to Me.
Yeah.
Dreamy, even romantic.
It is, but if you really listen to that instrumental intro, the way the drums build tension, and then those synthy layers on top, it's like the score to a movie scene before the characters even come on screen.
I like that.
You know, it creates this anticipation, this longing, and then Robert Smith's voice comes in, and it's just perfect.
It's true. It's like they took that talent for atmosphere and used it to create a totally different, but just as like emotionally intense landscape.
Okay.
It's no wonder that bands like Dinosaur Jr. covered this, who are, you know, known for a very different sound.
Exactly. And I think that just speaks to the song's universal appeal, that it can transcend genres. And then, of course, there's Pictures of You, which came out in '89. And the article calls it Smith's high watermark of frazzled numbness. What do you make of that?
Wow. You know, I actually think it's a really accurate description. Pictures of You is just so hauntingly beautiful.
That is.
And the story behind it, of Robert Smith finding these photographs after a fire, just gives it this other layer of poignancy. Like he's literally trying to piece together memories, hold on to something that's gone.
It's about loss.
Yeah.
It's about how we cling to the past, and the music just mirrors that so well. The piano is like teardrops, and his voice just aching.
It's definitely one of their most emotionally resonant tracks, and it's so interesting to contrast that with Lovesong, which also came out in '89, and feels almost like shockingly direct.
And yet that's part of what makes it so powerful. It's Robert Smith, the king of cryptic lyrics,
right,
writing a straight-up love song for his wife as a wedding gift. How sweet is that?
That's very sweet. And it's so vulnerable and heartfelt, and there's none of that like usual cynicism. It's like a side of him we don't normally see.
Exactly. And that rawness just makes it even more impactful.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, this is The Cure. They can't leave us like basking in the glow of Lovesong for too long, so they hit us with Lullaby, which is just straight up nightmare fuel.
Talk about a mood swing. 1 minute you're swaying to this love song, the next you're in this like eerie, creepy dreamscape. And it's so fascinating how Robert Smith took inspiration from these creepy bedtime stories that his uncle used to tell him and turned them into something so unsettling, but also kind of seductive.
It's so clever. And that video, don't even get me started. It's like Tim Pope took all those childhood fears and anxieties and just put them right there on the screen.
Yeah, it's definitely not for the faint of heart.
It's not.
But again, it's a testament to their ability to take these dark emotions and make them captivating.
Yeah, and kind of beautiful in a weird way.
It's like they knew how to get to that like dark corner of your mind. You know the one.
Oh, totally. The one you don't really want to admit is there.
Yes. But they make it okay. Like you're allowed to feel that too.
Exactly. It's like they're giving us permission
Yeah.
to feel the whole spectrum.
Yeah, all of it. Even the messy bits.
Even the messy bits. And that brings us to our final track, Friday, I'm in Love,
Oh, yes.
from 1992.
Which is so like ingrained in our brains at this point.
Right, it's everywhere.
You can't imagine the world without it. But it's so interesting because it seems so simple.
Yeah.
So feel good. But this article kind of blew my mind when it said that it was actually a very deliberate move on Robertsmith's part
Oh, really?
to create a hit.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he was totally self-aware with that one.
Oh, yeah. He knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted to make something that would resonate more broadly, that was just undeniably catchy and upbeat. And apparently he has said that taxi drivers would recognize him from that song.
Wow. The ultimate test.
Which says a lot. It's amazing how he was able to craft this like perfect pop song, but without losing the Cure sound.
Right. It's still so them, which is a real testament to his songwriting.
Yeah.
You know, he took those elements, that melancholic thing, the lyrical depth, and made it something that anyone could connect with.
So we've gone from the raw vulnerability of Boys Don't Cry to the calculated pop brilliance of Friday, I'm in Love.
What a journey. It's amazing how they refuse to be put in a box.
Yeah.
Genre-wise, you know.
Totally. Masters of like light and shade, introspection and playfulness, that darkness, but always with that glimmer of hope.
And I think that's why they're still so fascinating to people, even now. They never gave us a simple answer, like this is who we are. It was always this kaleidoscope.
Right. Like the article almost challenged us to find the one song that defines The Cure, but maybe it is more about the journey.
I think so. It's about being willing to explore those different moods, eras.
The light, the dark, all of it.
All of it. And I think that's a really powerful message, you know, to embrace all of that in life, all those complexities.
Absolutely. So to you listening, we leave you with this. Take another listen to these 10 tracks and see where you land.
Yeah, what resonates with you.
Unpack it, explore it, see where your own deep dive takes you. Until next time, happy listening.